you see Michael Myers like blending in with the shadows, and he kind of comes into view, which is an awesome shot. One of the best. Hey everybody, welcome to Blood and Donuts. I am Tony.
And I'm Chris. What's up, everyone? Thanks so much for joining. And Tony, this is our sequel September. So we were having fun this month doing all sequels.
Yes, that's right. It's September, which in my book is officially spooky season anyway. And like you said, your wife is decorating the house already.
Yeah, she's already brought out the decorations, or excuse me, had me get the decorations down, and she's putting them up. So
yeah, sequel September. We totally made that up. We didn't steal that from anybody either, did we?
Nope.
No.
First YouTubers ever.
Here at the Blood and Donuts podcast, we'll start by sharing an overview, facts, and our first impressions. Then each of us will give our donut rating before we go into a scene-by-scene discussion that is full of spoilers. And I feel compelled to warn you that if you haven't seen Halloween 2, to go ahead and watch it before you even watch the overview, because I feel like a few of our facts might spoil a few things as well. Some things that I want to talk about will have some spoilers in it. But Chris, why don't you go ahead and tell them how our donut rating works.
And so, Tony, we rate our movies on a 1 through 13 donut scale. A 1 through 4 is terrible. We are not going to recommend that to you. A 5 through 8 is kind of like a mid-range. It's worth a rent if you have time. It's not terrible, but it's not great. A 9 through 12 is great. You will definitely want to check out a 9 through 12. And Tony, 13, that's our Baker's Dozen tier. That's an elite class masterpiece of a horror film, possibly one of the best of all time. And I picked this movie this week, so I will go first when we rate. And we are currently both in the dark of our opinions. However, this is one that watched it together.
Yeah, we did.
Right after we recorded our Terrifier 2 bit.
I bet we've seen this 7 times together.
At least.
Since we were kids, watching this. But anyway.
Yeah.
Who's counting? Halloween 2 is a 1981 American slasher film directed by Rick Rosenthal. It's his directorial debut. It was written and produced by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill. The plot picks up directly where the cliffhanger ending of the first film left off, with Michael Myers following survivor Laurie Strode to the local hospital, while his psychiatrist, Dr. Loomis, continues his pursuit of him. It's also starring Jamie Lee Curtis, Donald Pleasance, who reprised their respective roles as Laurie Strode and Dr. Sam Loomis. It's the second installment in the Halloween film series, and it's a continuation sequel of the Halloween 1978.
Yeah, and it is definitely a continuation, because they just kind of show the last 3 minutes of the first movie in this one, right?
They do. They show a few other. Yeah. It seems like they show Michael Myers like falling again for some reason, like at a different angle. I wonder if that was like some old footage that they just had and rehashed it.
He fell out of the back in the first one. He falls out of the front in the sequel. So it's a weird. It's not totally continuous, but whatever.
Like I was saying, I wonder if they just had some extra footage from the first one that they recycled there. They were like, let's try it through here and let's try it through the back.
Right. But yeah, it's definitely. It just kind of does really pick up where the other one left off, and this was a pretty. It's still fun for me, but it's a pretty generic slasher. I mean, it's for the time, and I still think it's great. But you kind of establish a group of characters, and then you see them get slashed up. It's fun.
Yeah, and that's to me, I think it's a good companion piece to the first one. I mean, it starts where the other one left off, and I think Rosenthal did a really good job of capturing those same camera angles, especially there at the beginning. He does a little bit more stalking at night in the neighborhood, and to me, that feels just like the first one. I don't feel like I'm in a different movie or anything. I feel like even though the budget was bigger, I feel like we're still in that same movie.
So the same night.
I told you when we were watching, I was like, it's like, on the radio when they play We Will Rock You, and then they without a commercial or anything, they go right into We Are the Champions. That is what this is. Or Led Zeppelin, they have Heartbreaker, and then it goes right into Livin' Loving Maid. That is what this is. But unfortunately, we have to rate this one on its own merit as a standalone horror film, and that's how we're going to treat this one. Chris, this one starts off with Mr. Sandman in the opening. What'd you think about that?
It's cool. It's a great song, and it's bookends it, right? It does it in the beginning and the end,
Yeah.
and they also use it 20 years later in H2O.
That's really cool, isn't it? Yeah,
Did
it's
I
not.
steal that from you?
Yeah, no, I didn't. No, not at all. Not at all. And they also, this is the first. Like, I like that Halloween. I love that first intro with the actual Michael Myers music. Call me old fashioned, and then the different pumpkins. This one focuses on one pumpkin who kind of breaks away, and then you have a skull, which is like, man, he's even more evil than you thought, and he's coming with a vengeance in this one, and he really does. They up the gore in this one a lot, don't they?
They do. It's bloody pretty much from the first kill. And this one too, I love the music. It's still a Hallmark soundtrack, but isn't it a little skewed? Like it's like not the same as the first. They kind of use different instruments.
Yeah, John Carpenter, like
guitar.
Yeah. John Carpenter used synthesizers to go with the 80s feel to it. So it does change it up a bit, and it does give it like an 80s vibe to it, which is a little, I don't know, it's different.
Now, speaking of continuation, right? Did you notice Jamie Lee Curtis's hair?
It's hard to not notice that.
It's totally a wig.
Yeah, that wig is bad. It's a bad wig, but
it's really terrible because she started wearing her hair shorter, like after the first one, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, sequel here. Yeah. She's like, oh, well, I can't. We don't have months to grow it out, so let's just use a wig.
Yeah, she's kind of like.
I feel like starring Donald Pleasance.
Yeah, she's kind of like she's a throwaway character in this. Yeah, right. She's just asleep during the whole thing, and just
or having a dream or something. It's
having a dream.
Really starring Donald Pleasance. He does have to carry this one a little bit, whereas in the first one, her and her friends, and we're going to compare it, guys. We're going to compare the sequel to the first one, of course, but we'll still rate based on this one's merits. But yeah, the first one, her and her friends carry the film. In this one, it's kind of Donald Pleasance, and some of the hospital staff have to do the heavy lifting.
Much more stalking and stuff of the sort in the first one. Much more like tension building and all that. And her friends are such good actresses in their dialogue in the first one. I feel like you don't get that in this one. You have a lot of throwaway characters, which again, it's about the pursuit of Laurie Strode. She's in the hospital. She's pretty much incapacitated. So you have to put some throwaway nurses in the middle, in between. There's a security guard in there, some like this kind of like
one security guard in the whole hospital.
Yeah. But you don't get any like when her friends died in the first one, you felt like you were losing a friend because you knew them.
Yes.
But when a nurse died in this one, you're just like, oh, okay, whatever. And I saw that Rosenthal tried to do that same like very toned down Halloween, like with the kills and stuff. But then John Carpenter came back and said, no, we need to up the gore because the horror films that are coming out now, like Friday the 13th, this is what kids want. So they did reshoots and they made it a little bit more gory. So that's a big critique of this one, but I like it because if you're going to have throwaway characters like these nurses, the kills better be creative. So I think I might be in a camp of my own. I think the creative kills are what make this film memorable.
Yeah, they're unique, right? They're not just a knife or, he does a scalpel later, but they're not just a knife. He kind of does get creative with it. And you're right. They're just throwaway characters. There's not really any character development.
Yeah.
Like halfway through the first movie, you were friends with these girls. And Deborah Hill, she wrote that dialogue for the girls in the first one. In this one, there was none of that back and forth or character building. You just had like a doofy ER,
a horny EMT and a horny nurse,
Laurie, and and the cock blocking nurse. It's whatever.
You did have, like you said, Donald Pleasance is back. Does he seem a bit unhinged in this one? Like, is he just like in the first film, he seemed like a very like had his crap together. Like he was just like he had his crap together, but he was very serious. But like it's like from the moment he says, I shot him 6 times, you know, from the moment he just keeps that same energy through this whole film, and he makes me a nervous wreck. And I'm pretty sure that he had a hand in a young kid's death.
Yeah, he definitely did. Ben Tramer, and that was Laurie's boyfriend from the first one.
Yeah.
Like where she's wanting to, oh, you should call Ben Tramer. That was him.
He's lost all sense. Man, there's a hilarious quote in this one where somebody says, I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight. And he goes, you don't know what death is? And you're just like, dude,
memorable.
Calm down, Donald. Smoke a cigarette, man, dude. He's just he has this next level in this one, and it's so funny. I don't know.
You don't know what death is.
You don't know what death is. So hospitals are creepy, right? That's a cool setting. Yeah, you got to say
especially
that.
At night.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, creepy hospital. I love that about this one. This one also has a good Halloween vibe to it as far as the season goes. You see a lot of trick or treaters around. You see that one trick or treater who's he ate a razor blade in his candy. I love that.
Shows up at the hospital and we never see him again. But he's showing up and his mouth is bleeding. His mom's like, "It's okay, just walk slow. Let's go. Come on."
We've heard that our whole lives. We heard that our whole lives that if you got to check your candy because there could be razor blades in it, and they brought that to life. That's a cool little Easter egg in there. I like that.
Which apparently that's never happened. It's never been recorded in history.
I saw that.
Someone put a razor blade in it.
Well, things like that have happened. I'm getting sidetracked a little bit. I mean, I remember somebody put poison in Tylenol, and so that's why they had to put that cotton and then start sealing it and stuff like that. I do know that that's true, but I don't know about candy. So you got Nick Castle, who played Michael Myers in the first film, did not return for this one. So you have Dick Warlock. Now the mask. I went through a rabbit hole of just Michael Myers masks, and I love Michael Myers. Yes,
earlier in the week,
I went through ratings of the Michael Myers mask. I went through different, and I think I'm part of the Michael Myers mask cult now, where I'm a purist when it comes to Michael Myers mask, and so I want to become a connoisseur and know in H2O they use 4 or 5 different masks. I had no idea. I remember hating the H2O mask, but I had no idea.
Really?
This one had the original from 1978. Apparently, they just had one, and it was under Deborah Hill's bed, and they were like, "Hey, we're shooting this $2 million movie. Yeah. We're gonna need that back." And there was cigarette burns and smoke on it and stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so they wore it for this one. Yeah, but Dick Warlock, his face, it's not an oval; it's a little bit more round. So Michael Myers, his face looks a little bit different in this one.
Okay,
but
and I saw a GIF when I was trying to send you a GIF earlier today, and on the fourth one, it's just really clean. He's the cleanest.
Oh my gosh, ever. It is awful, dude.
The one from the fifth one, you sent me that one earlier this week. It's all untucked from the jumpsuit.
Yes, yes. The best one, obviously 1, 2. These are really good. 4, I don't know what he was thinking there. I don't know what they were They were
clean.
Quality control. They were like, yeah, it looks good. That's fine. That looks good. I don't know.
It's got some dirt on it. Let me.
Man. I didn't who would have thought that you would have to that when you're watching 1 and 2, that would be something that would be so hard to do in the future to get the mask correct.
It was like a William Shatner mask, right? And they spray painted it white, cut the eyes out a little bigger, and mess with the hair or something.
Apparently they tried to make the other one from casts, and again, there would be directors who were like, no, we're not using the same mask. I want my own mask, and it was just
Why
weird.
Would you not?
I don't know.
The first mask,
the Halloween, the new reboot.
Yeah,
those
Rob
masks. No, not Rob's. Yeah, I mean his look okay. I'm talking about the other reboot.
Oh, the new one. Oh,
yes, okay. Yes.
The Halloween Kills and Ends and whatever. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Halloween Kills and Ends. Yes, those masks look really good. They look really legit. I'm getting off I'm getting off of subject here, but man, just you could go down a whole rabbit hole of just like Michael Myers mask, and there's a fandom. Like I want to be one of those people who have all of them in a row and stuff, and they had like everybody has them. I had no idea.
So I have a fun quick fact, right?
Yes.
So around 11 minutes in, the voice of Alice's friend, right? She's like, she hears the old lady scream. And I was telling the wife, I was like, if you hear that these days, you just like shut the door and like, lock it and close the blinds and stuff. And then these days they were like, hey, are you okay, Miss Annie? Like, what's your, you kind of check on your neighbor back then. But so anyway, Alice's friend calls, and it's actually the voice of Nancy Loomis, who played Annie in the original Halloween. And of course, she appears later on as the corpse of Annie. But that's her voice on the phone talking to her friend Alice.
How cool is that? I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
They shot a fake ending for security reasons to prevent leaks. And in that ending of the shot of the movie, Laurie Strode dies. It was never intended to be used in the final cut, but they shot that.
That's awesome. And they were worried about leaks back in 81. Huh?
Yeah, they were about, because I guess they had so many extras on set, including a young Dana Carvey
with a news reporter.
Is that what it was?
He's with he's standing with the lady news reporter right outside of the house.
That's where he got his start.
He shows up twice.
That's so cool. That's where he got it. They people saw him and like, man, he would be great for Wayne's World. No, I'm just joking.
He looks like he could be on SNL for a decade or two.
This is a huge spoiler and plot point, and I gave that warning for a reason because I want to talk to you about this. What do you think about the sibling twist that was created for this movie?
I think some of it just kind of sets it up. If you look at your favorite movie on down the line, The Curse of Michael Myers.
That's yours, Chris.
They kind of set it up for that, right? They're like, oh, Sam Hain and Samhain, and then that's the mark of the death itself, and they really just kind of set up for later things. And that's just kind of one of those things where they just give this killer a motive, and I'm okay with it because it does spawn a few, maybe 2 more good sequels.
But the thing is, John Carpenter did not. They planned on this being it. He wanted this to be it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, John Carpenter was done. That's what I'm saying. Like he made the death at the end so apparent that he was just like they could never bring him back after this because he didn't want to be on this. He was under contract to do this film so he could do The Fog, and he was like, they were like, can I do? So he came up with a deal where he's like, how about I do The Fog without you attached to it, and I will write this movie for you. But he did not like it. He calls this film an abomination, is what John Carpenter said about this one.
Well, luckily, they wrap it all up in a nice bow in a trilogy in Halloween 3, and then everyone's answers are solved. Everything is wrapped up in a nice little bow in Halloween 3.
To me, looking back to these two films and the end of Michael Myers, I can see what he was doing there under the title card of Halloween, just like Trick or Treat. You have like a bunch of horror films under that title. And, and when you watch a Halloween film, the only thing that tied those things together is the fact that they happened on the night of Halloween. That sounds good. That's what the idea he was going for. The problem is Michael Myers was such a cultural phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
The best, most iconic horror villain of all time. There, I want to go ahead and say that. I mean, just go ahead and, 1978, Michael Myers is, hands down, one of the best, if not the best, horror villain of all time. And then that could be debated. You can come up with an argument as far as that goes.
He's at least top 3, top 4.
Dudes,
there's no question.
Yeah, that's the problem. And so like the fans weren't having it. They would go into 3, which is a pretty good movie. It ain't bad on its own.
By itself,
but people were like, no Michael Myers. I think they like rioted and stuff. They like tore down like
One more fun fact.
Let's hear it. Is
for
it a good
you,
one?
and then I'll roll into my rating if you're okay with that.
Yeah, it sounds good.
All right. So Leo Rossi, who plays Bud, right, the guy who like smokes the joint in the hospital,
Yeah.
he introduced Jamie Lee Curtis to her husband, her still husband,
Christopher Guest.
Christopher Guest,
Sorry,
as
I'm sorry,
we
I
know
jumped
as
there.
Nigel Tufnell,
Yes.
live and direct from hell, Spinal Tap.
How awesome
They,
is that?
Yeah, he introduced him to like a celebrity softball league or something. So that's fun. Good job,
That is awesome.
Leo.
I love that.
This is my favorite horror movie icon, Michael Myers. This movie stays in rotation every year for my house. When the wife and kid are giving out candy or walking the neighborhood, I have this movie on with a pot of chili and hot dogs going for when they come in.
Heck yeah.
While in rotation, in comparison for the first one, it's not as good as the first one for me.
Yes.
The music seems like a little skewed, and there's not that much character development, and I've talked about that. The first one, we were invested in those friends, and then there was backstory. This one falls flat in that department. That's not to say it's not a fantastic sequel. There's fun kills, there's great stalking, and the pacing makes it fun. Must watch every year. If you're in our older audience, you've seen it like 100 times. If you're in our younger audience, you're doing yourself a disservice by now watching this 80s classic. Tony, I'm going to give this an 11 out of 13 donuts. I think it's one of the better horror sequels that just really, it kind of like you mentioned, should have ended there. By the time we get to Halloween 10, it's not as fun. But this is one of those really good ones. 11 out of 13 for me.
Great score. Halloween 2 is a perfect companion piece to the 1978 classic, making it a great sequel by definition. But we need to rate this on its own merit. The film retains the tension and atmosphere of the original while ramping up the brutality and gore. The creative kills are a highlight for me, adding a new level of horror that feels appropriate for a sequel. While some critique the increased violence compared to its predecessor, I welcome it as a natural evolution of Michael Myers' menace. The hospital setting amplifies the terror, making this installment a thrilling continuation that honors the original while pushing its boundaries. I dislike the brother-sister reveal, the boringness of Jamie Lee Curtis's character. Donald Pleasance seems a bit out of pocket on this one, and all of that. It's a must-watch for fans of this franchise, and one of my favorite Halloween movies of all time. Like Chris said, you put it on, this thing is comfort food. This movie is an 11 out of 13, and one of the best horror sequels of all time.
Nice, man. Nice. It's a great score.
Yes. So
it is a must watch. If you're our younger audience, you've got to go check it out. I mean, it's just a must see. It's free right now on Peacock, is where we watched it.
Perfect.
But man, I turn it on. It's there every year.
Oh, watch the first one first. A lot of people, what they do is they forgo the credits and just go splice those two together and watch it just like that. You got yourself a 3-hour Michael Myers film, and it's a perfect. I think it runs. It's very seamless. Not too many sequels do that, man. That one's pretty seamless.
No. Yeah, for sure it is. A lot of the other sequels, like you mentioned, is just there's a new setting, there's a new family, and you have new characters in this one, but you still have that main protagonist, if you will, and Jamie Lee Curtis is Laurie Strode. And she kind of, like you said, she takes a back seat here, but it's still fun to watch him kind of stalk through the hospital looking for his target, killing everyone in his path.
Yeah, it really is. We already exposed some plot points in this one and some of the spoilers, but we're about to go scene by scene and spoil this. So if you haven't seen it, we urge you to go watch it. Just like Chris said, it's on Peacock for free. All right, so here come the spoils, Chris.
Let's do it.
On October 31st, 1978, Michael Myers is shot by his psychiatrist, Dr. Sam Loomis, and he falls off a balcony. He survives his wounds and escapes into the night. Wandering these alleys, he steals a kitchen knife from an elderly couple, and he kills the teenage girl next door. Meanwhile, Laurie Strode, who narrowly avoided being killed that night, is taken to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital while Loomis continues his pursuit of Michael, accompanied by Sheriff Brackett.
Yeah, and he's Sheriff Brackett's in the first one there too.
Yes.
There's some iconic lines, right? I shot him 6 times. You don't know what death is. And was that the boogeyman? Yes, as a matter of fact, it was.
Oh,
those
yeah.
are all iconic lines
Yeah.
to me, and they all happen in like the first 4 minutes of this movie. It's like, after that, it's like, okay, this is just a slasher, but whatever.
I do like Sheriff Brackett later in the film. He looks at Loomis and he goes, "You let him out." Like he got real big.
Yeah.
Like when he found out his daughter was dead. Like I mean, you can imagine he was just like very pissed. And it was one of the I few times in movies do they show a main character just leaving the movie to go care for their daughter, but it's like, it made it very real, a company, because we know that his daughter died in the first one. He's finding out in real time, and you see the emotion bubbling over, and like, you let him out. And like, I think it added to the craziness that is Dr. Loomis, where he felt responsible. Like, I got to kill this dude. And we'll see in the end exactly what links he goes to kill this dude and the responsibility that he feels.
Yeah, for sure. And I love how they put another shout out to that classic. In the first one, they had The Thing, right?
Yes.
Playing in the background while with Lindsay watching. And in this one, it's like the original Night of the Living Dead. They're watching that in that house. The old people are watching that.
Yes.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
This is fun. It makes me want to watch all those old horror movies like all in one night.
I do too. I love those old horror movies. And that's one of the things, like, my wife doesn't watch a lot of gory stuff, so I can get her to watch a lot of the classics. Like House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah.
Actually, that might be a little, that's pretty hardcore. Night of the Living Dead. It's not as tame as it sounds.
It's got some social extremities there, but it'll be fine. Should be okay.
She'll be fine. Like after a couple years of therapy, she would be fine. I do like, you see a weird side of Michael Myers here. He goes into the old folks' home, and it seems like anybody who gets in his way in any type of way, he just kind of kills them randomly. He doesn't kill the elderly people.
No, and he doesn't kill the babies later in the hospital. He's sitting there in a whole ward of little babies, and then. In this hospital floor which is really creepy, man. I've had some personal stuff where I've been in the hospital for a little bit over the past few months.
Yes.
And it's pretty creepy, but there's always 20 nurses hanging around. In this one, there's 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's
one security guard. It would creep me out.
It's Haddonfield Memorial, man. They don't have labor for a little town like this. One critique I heard is where's the lights in this hospital?
It's so dark.
Yeah. But when you spend the night at the hospital, they do have after hours where they do turn the lights down in the hospital.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. But still, there's a few more lights. These are just eerily placed lights. Yeah. There's one every 5 rooms.
That is true. But I do like watching this particular film and seeing the break room, the paneling and stuff. It does look just seeing an old a hospital from
just smoking
80s.
A roach.
I love it. You could probably you could smoke back then in the waiting room and
even
stuff.
Loomis and the other lady, Nancy, I think her name is, he lights her cigarette. And later on, Jeff Daniels, the officer who takes over for Sheriff Brackett.
Yeah.
He gives Loomis that,
he does. Loomis doesn't smoke it, but he holds on to that lighter.
But he gives him the lighter, yeah.
Look at you.
Come up later.
Loomis mistakes teenager Ben Tramer for Michael due to Ben wearing a similar mask, resulting in Ben being hit by a police car and burning to death. The bodies of Annie Brackett, Linda Van, and Bob Sims are discovered by, Linda, that's all I've ever said, are discovered by the police as residents of the Wallace. Upon learning his daughter has been killed, Michael Sheriff Brackett blames Loomis and abandons the search, leaving Deputy Gary Hunt to take his place.
And Jeff Daniels is on the case. I think that Sheriff Brackett's a bit of he's a stronger actor than the one who takes him over.
Yeah.
But it's really Loomis who, even though he's crazy, it's Loomis that kind of shines on these scenes that are outside of the hospital, because at this point in the movie, the hospital's kind of boring, right? Like they're still setting up stuff, but on the outside, like Loomis is still chasing Michael Myers, so he's really shining in these scenes. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, especially in the first one, you see Loomis kind of neutered in the fact that nobody believes him. And nobody's taking him seriously. Yeah. So he's just like, he's like the guy who's like, oh, he's pure evil. And then nobody's listening to him. Everybody's like, yeah, old man, we'll find it. So now he's at the helm and people are listening to him. And this guy in charge is like, so what should we do now? It's kind of like Loomis is in charge. But right here, he kind of goes crazy with Ben Tramer. You got Ben Tramer, who so tell me, like this is one of those continuity things, or maybe one of those things that you're like, Ben Tramer's wearing the same exact outfit as Michael Myers. Okay, yeah. So we want to. So okay, let's go ahead and just believe in Haddonfield. The famous mask of the day was the mask that Michael Myers. Okay, just that's what it was. Yeah. But him wearing the same mechanic's jumpsuit. If I'm correct, didn't Michael like kill a mechanic to get that?
He did in the fourth one.
In the first one, he killed a tow truck driver and took his mechanic out.
Yes, he did. Yeah, the tow truck driver. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's the hot item, right? It's the Scream mask of our day. But the fact that Ben Tramer's wearing the mechanic outfit with that mask is highly unlikely. You gotta believe it. Just responding to the police officer, "Hey, I'm sorry for the misunderstanding. Yeah. It's me, Ben Tramer," and he pulls his mask up. But no, it's none of that. It's a crazy ass doctor pointing a gun at you while you run across the street and get hit by a car. Yeah. Well, I think exploding car. Exploding one. They both just filled up on gas. I think Dr. Loomis was about to shoot him in the face. Let's be honest. Yeah, he's gonna shoot him in the back. Yeah.
Poor Ben Tramer.
Golly, and that was Laurie Strode's apparent love interest in the first one.
Yeah, it was. But she's got a new one now. You got Jimmy, right?
Oh, Jimmy.
Jimmy's just like, he's like coming into her room and he's
sliding into the DMs.
He's like, so are you?
They had back in the 80s.
He's like, are you comfortable? What, is there anything I can get for you? And then the head nurse keeps coming in. She goes, Jimmy, leave. Jimmy, it's time to go. All this stuff. I like Jimmy.
Character in this thing.
You don't.
No, the nurse.
You call
Alvarez? Yeah. She's the worst, man.
You would think she'd be like, you know what? You're really bringing her spirits up and all this stuff. Yeah. Maybe Jimmy had maybe Jimmy had like a little fetish, and he treated some of the I don't know. There's no telling. There's no telling what Jimmy was up to. So I'm at the hospital. Paramedic Jimmy develops an attraction to Laurie, but head nurse Virginia Alves, I believe it is, limits the time that he spends with her. After hearing a news flash revealing Laurie's location, Michael makes his way to the hospital.
The teenager was taken across town to Haddonfield Memorial Clinic,
where he cuts the phone lines, disables all the cars in the parking lot by slashing their tires, and so no one can escape and call for help. Wandering the halls in search of Laurie, he kills the security guard, the doctor, the paramedic, and several nurses throughout the night.
So, fun fact, you don't see any of him slashing the tires or cutting the lines or anything, but there's a lot to unpack there. So let's start with the dopey security guard, right?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I heard something. I got to go check it out. So he gives the other mating walkie-talkie to some nurse, I think it's Nancy, or it's Jill. No, it's Nancy.
It doesn't matter. So
anyway, he gives his walkie.
They're all just throwaway, so it doesn't matter. Just you could say nurse number one. Yeah,
throwaway characters.
Right.
So anyway, he gets hit with a claw hammer. Now Nurse Alves, she gets seen later on by Jimmy. She's just kind of sitting there dripping blood out of her. Right. That's pretty lame. The main ER doctor that we didn't mention, but he's kind of like drunk and he's like coming in off of the street and he's like, oh yeah, nurse, get me a coffee.
He was golfing all day. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just like dead with a syringe in his head.
But when the nurse discovers him, That's what's
Yes.
cool.
Yeah, and that's where she gets stabbed too. I think she just gets the Nurse Nancy. She gets a syringe in the side of the temple as well, which instantly kills you. It wasn't even filled up with anything. I think he just pumped air in her side of her head or something.
Yeah.
Who knows? But
That-
the best
that-
kill there.
Can I speak about that
We
one
got-
though, before you go to that one?
Yeah, do it.
Oh, turn the doctor around. He has it, and I watched this at a very young age when I shouldn't have watched it. And they're like the doctor had a syringe right here in the side of his face, and then you see Michael Myers kind of he's blending.
The was in his eye.
Oh, that's what it was, the eyeball.
Yep.
And so you see Michael Myers like blending in with the shadows, and he kind of
Yeah.
comes into view, which is an awesome shot, one of the best ever. And he kind of does the same, except he puts it in the temple of the nurse. But my whole life, I thought he stuck it in her eyeball. And everybody I talked to said they had remembered more of that than when you see it again, you're like, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. So there was one of those things, like, because you saw it in his eyeball, and because like there was this mental thing where you thought that you saw something that you did not see. So coming back, it wasn't as bad as you thought it was. But back then, back then it was horrific and crazy, and I remember that one, and the hot tub is
So while we're on the hot tub, right? And I agree with you there. The syringe to the side of the head there, and him blending in the background. I think that's one of the horror, and we're not going to get out of this podcast without saying it, tropes. That is the best. One of the best in town, right? Where he just blends in the background. They do it really good in Halloween 4, where it's like you kind of look for him in the background. Like you're kind of trained to like, oh, there he is. Oh, did you see him? Let me rewind that for you. It's one of those where he's in the background most of the time, and it's just fun to try to find him. It's like, where's Michael Myers? But before we get to Nurse Nancy in the hot tub, we got to talk about Bud. He gets strangled in the background naked with some cord, right? Like you just see the silhouette of Michael like strapping the cord around his neck.
So
That's
good.
lame. Nurse Nancy, however, I'm not really sure how she dies here. This is the temperature that my wife takes a shower at, which is scalding, according to the little meter there.
yes.
You know, it's like the skin peels off. You can see the skeleton underneath.
Well, he drowns her too. He drowns her too, though.
Kind of.
Don't forget about drowning.
Yes. Yeah, but they were really showing that Elmer's glue peeling off of her face.
That one gave me nightmares. That one, when I saw it, it was hard to get it out of my head, and for other reasons as well. But because she was their skin was peeling and stuff. What I would say about that is, it was kind of lame, him getting just like strangled in the background, but this felt like he's wandering the halls, Michael Myers. Mm-hmm. You're sitting there as a viewer, you're like, when is he going to show up? And like they're sitting there, they're having a good time, and he's like, she's like, can you get up and change the and like, so
it's cold out there.
Yeah, and the way
goes, it can get cold in here.
It could get cold in here, but the way the camera is looking and facing out here, and it's always keeping your eye focused on something else. One thing, when you're in Laurie Strode's room, the door is always wide open, and the camera is always looking right there at that open door over there to the side. And so the whole time it does a really good job of building like that wonder, not as good as what you just said, Halloween 4, where you're like constantly looking for him in that type of way. But I feel like this one, Rosenthal did a good job of kind of like making your, making you like go, is he going to come this way? Is he going to come this way? You and I have seen it so many times. So we're sitting here and like, oh, that's a lame kill. That's lame. How did that even happen? How did his hand not even get burned? How about she's like, she didn't know that he was dead. And then so like Michael comes over there and she's like,
yeah, she's like
kissing on his and like,
the dirtiest
as an audience, you're sitting there like, he has like 17 people's blood, or 10 that we know about, as that sheriff said, but like just so much like, ugh, he ate a dog earlier. You know what I mean?
Like he just got into welding all day with no gloves.
Oh man. And she was just all about some Michael Myers. And if there's one thing that we know about Michael Myers, he can't stand a whore. He can't. You know, like
he does not like the attraction.
Do any serial killers hate whores? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In horror movies. So like you're seeing that and you're just like, you're about to get it. You know, you're about to like you're messing around here. It was so good. That's one of the most iconic. And when you talk about the Halloween franchise, when you talk about Michael Myers, that's one of the most iconic scenes of all time. Top tier.
Top 3 kills for Michael Myers. Yeah.
I wonder if that was one of John Carpenter's reshoots.
Oh yeah, it could have been. Yeah, where he just drowns her.
Yeah, really, to get it a little bit more gory.
At that point, I'm not worried about her drowning. I'm worried about that skin peeling off. That's what makes it look so bad. Where every time he lifts her up, he's just kind of, he's like teasing her. He's like, "Oh no, you're gonna live."
Yeah,
no, you're not.
No, you're not.
Oh, here we come. No, and that's the darkest, most creepy physical therapy hot tub I've ever seen.
Same.
And we can't forget about Nurse Jill. She gets a scalpel on the back, but I think they might talk about that later. And then that's like the last.
Another thing I might add is just that dopey security guard. You got like in every film, in every horror film, if you got the strong police officer who has a gun, or it could be anybody like that. When they die, when they're easily disposed of by the killer, it adds it adds like, oh, you're not safe. You know what I mean? Like when he can easily dispose of the security guard that is supposed to be your protector, it adds a different layer. And I don't know. I think that in horror movies, that's a trope.
That is a big thing in horror, but for me in this one, this was like killing Dewey and Scream. Like, it was not that big of a deal. And it took like freaking 7 or 8 minutes to do it. So I'm like, come on. Let's get it going.
Let's get rid of Chubby here. Chunky Trunks.
Give me back to Nurse Karen, would you?
In her hospital room, Laurie's dreaming about the time that she learned she was adopted. And she remembers that she once visited young Michael at the sanitarium. Can we talk about this for a second, Chris?
Yeah, man. Come on, man. I know you hate it. You hate that the killer has a motive. Go ahead, man.
There's a scene. I think Jimmy lets old Laurie Strode know. He sits there at her on her bed and he goes, "It's Michael Myers doing all this killing, and he's out and about." And she's like, she has the realization that, oh, that little boy who murdered his sister many years ago. Yeah. Because why? In the first one, she was told by her parents, her adopted parents apparently, to bring this key and drop it off at this house. Which, did these parents know that that they adopted the Myers kid?
You would think.
And they still sent her to that freaking house. There's just some the Strodes, this dynamite real estate couple that they're just trying to unload this freaking death house, and there's like, Laurie, here, drop these keys off. I don't know. There's just
dynamite real estate couple.
There's so much here, Chris, that just makes me mad because I really hate the sibling thing. And the reason is because I love the fact that Michael Myers saw Laurie Strode put those keys on his porch, and he was like, yeah, she needs to die. And whoever comes in contact with her. And I am going to stop at nothing until all of them are dead. You know what I mean? I love that.
That was your only motivation.
I love it.
You didn't need the fact that was his half-sister or his stepsister or whatever.
I hate all of it. I hate it. I can't stand it. I would have liked for Jamie Lee to be out of this completely. She basically was, but it is what it is, and whatever. Yeah. I think John Carpenter said he hates it as well. But this like little dream that came out of nowhere, I don't think she ever really like says it out loud that she's Michael's sister, and she doesn't acknowledge that. It's just a weird way of doing it. And how about Donald Pleasance? Dr. Loomis didn't even know.
Yeah, and that's the part I didn't like. I didn't really mind the twist so much that like Laurie was his brother or half brother, whatever he was, but that Loomis didn't know about it. Because Loomis is like, well, I had access to all his files. And she's like, no, there was one secret file sealed by the president himself.
The president, by Jimmy Carter. back in 19.
Richard Nixon sealed it himself and said that you couldn't see it until the sequel.
But I could have went to like because he literally he was his doctor for years, right? And he could have literally like just went to Laurie and said, "Hey, we have a new identity for you. Let's get you out of town because this dude's dangerous," and saved her life. But no,
saved a lot of people.
Yeah. I guess I was the Strodes who went to the freaking judge and said, "Can we just like go ahead and seal and just don't let Laurie know who her parents are because I don't want them to know whose house I'm selling." I don't know how that goes. I don't know.
But later on, like in the sequels, right? Like he's trying to kill his niece, apparently, right? Like he's trying to kill Jamie.
Yeah.
In the fourth one.
Yeah.
And then in the sixth one, your favorite, Jamie gives birth to another one, right?
Yeah.
And so it just goes on down the family line. He's just trying to kill his family, dude.
Can I tell you, like I watched number 4 the other day. I was taking a nap. I just put it in. It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube for free. First off, the beginning, I don't know if you remember, there's these beginning shots of like Halloween. It's like there's Halloween decorations and they are so nostalgic and so good. All I'm saying is Halloween 4 is a sleeper pick for me. I'm just going to go ahead and put it in there. It's a really
it's one of those sleeper picks that you just put on and just kind of
that's what I'm saying. I think it's a pretty good Michael Myers film. And to be honest with you, like the mask does suck, but I think it's I feel like we need to revisit Halloween 4 and kind of like I don't think it's half bad. I don't think it's half bad. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't watch it all.
I don't like 5. 5, there's Jamie gets all screamy and crying, and there's like psychic connection between her and Michael, and you lose me. That's where like they kind of copied like Jason 17, where the like some little girl has a psychic connection to Jason or some crap. You lose me there.
What's
4 is not half bad.
The little girl's name is Jamie.
And the fourth one,
if in 5 or 6 they kill her and cast her aside, and I was just like, "What was all of that
6,
for?" I said, "Why did that? What was all of that for?" I thought we were. What are y'all doing to me?
It was the future of the franchise.
I thought she was the future of the franchise. Oh man. Okay, we're getting sidetracked here.
All right,
it's hard to get caught up. You get caught up in Michael Myers lore if you're not careful. Jimmy and nurse Jill Franco grow increasingly concerned when they discover that more and more staff have gone missing throughout the night, and they search the hospital for Laurie, who's trying to evade Michael. As nurse Jill Franco tries to start the car to drive to the sheriff's office, she fails to start, and she sees that all the car's tires in the parking lot have been slashed.
Man, good on Michael for like, he really thinks ahead. He didn't just run into the hospital after Laurie. He stopped on his way and he's like, "Hey, I need to cut them tires. Hey, I need to cut that phone line. Hey, I need to take out the security guard." Like, he's really proactive, right, in this one. This is probably the smartest Michael Myers in the series.
Well, if you're a dude who doesn't like to run, which Michael Myers infamously hates
it.
Freaking running. He's like, "I'm not running. I don't want to run. I will pursue you at a steady pace, but I'm not going to run." What you definitely want to do is take away the vehicles, because that's really going to screw things up for you. So,
because if you're in fear for your life, if your tires are cut, you're automatically just going to shut it down and accept your fate and go back into the hospital. You're not just going to like run down the street hollering for help.
Yes.
You're not going to do any of that. You're just going to go back in, accept your fate, and get killed. I mean,
you're definitely not going to get out of the car and start crawling on the street and screaming. Oh yeah, you can't scream. Whatever. So she leaves the bed for the first time here, but it's a pretty cool scene.
Finally.
You got Michael Myers. He comes in and there's Laurie Strode's bed, and you kind of see like how he feels about Laurie. He just he cuts it really good with a vengeance. I mean, like he really puts that knife in there.
And don't forget, they found the maybe they found it later, but they find like at the elementary school, like Michael Myers' family, and then he has the knife like in the little girl's stomach. You love that, right?
I tried to forget that part. I tried to I wanted to give this film the benefit of the doubt and just remove that part from memory. But anyway, there's some things that I'm just like, man. Yeah, I wasn't born until 1985, but I feel like I could have really helped y'all, with my opinion with this movie.
You need some help. Look, this sucks, but do it this way or something. Do it better.
After finding Miss Alves dead strapped to a gurney with an empty IV needle in her arm, draining all the blood out of her body, Jimmy turns to run to go for help, but he slips into a pool of her blood, knocks himself unconscious, giving himself a concussion. Meanwhile, police are informed that Michael broke into the local elementary school earlier. Loomis rides with him. His colleagues, Marion Chambers, arrives to escort him back to Smith's Grove on the governor's orders and under enforcement of U.S. Marshal. On the way, she tells him that Laurie is Michael's younger sister. She was put up for adoption after the death of Michael's parents, with the record sealed to protect his family by the President of the United States. I added that last part.
And the U.S. Marshals, best in the United States, super trained to
He's the worst.
They're just best of the best, but they don't search a psychotic doctor before they put him in the car to make sure he doesn't have any guns on him.
Oh man, that they should have taken his gun immediately. Not only that, how about when he goes, he's like, "Get away from him! He's not breathing."
Right. Yeah, and that's in a few paragraphs, but it's so funny watch him. He's like, "Wait a minute, that's his sister," and he's like, "What do you boys do? No one fire a warning shot?" And then
warning shot, right?
He points the gun at him, and you just see it's actually a pretty funny cut. Right after the gunshot, it cuts to the marshal doing a 180 in the street and turning back around at the town.
Oh my gosh, it's nuts, funny. Man. Loomis is in the school, and that nurse walks in, and she speaks to him, and he goes, "I'm sorry, I didn't even recognize you." What I believe it was the night prior or the 2 nights prior or maybe 3 nights prior. He was literally in a car with her. She was driving when Michael escaped. What do you mean you didn't recognize her?
It was a week prior.
Y'all literally were in the same car. You were in the passenger. She was driving. Y'all were having a conversation. Y'all went through a very traumatic event together, both of you. Michael jumped on the car. He broke the. Yeah, and then she was just he was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't recognize you."
That's hilarious. I did not realize that.
So that
is canonically, that is less than a week before the events. Right? Yes,
if you're really going to, and they use the same actress and everything, which is great. I love that. But
she's in H2O later on.
Oh, is she really?
Series. Yeah, she gets killed at the beginning of H2O.
Man.
Yeah. Spoilers.
H2O. It was.
You gotta do it, man. I like it.
It's not bad. It put a good period on Halloween.
The 90s. Yeah.
And why in the hell did they come out with Resurrection?
That's a great point. But eventually, if this podcast keeps growing and being as successful as it is, we're gonna have to do it.
Halloween Resurrection put a bad taste. I swear. I feel like I didn't watch Halloween films for a long time because they put out Resurrection. It made seriously, it hurt me so bad to see Busta Rhymes use Kong. Again, we're watching this at this point. At the end of this movie, you will see 12 gunshots into Michael Myers. He's been burnt alive, but he gets defeated by Busta Rhymes Kung Fu. I can't handle it, Chris. I cannot handle it. And not only that, there's don't they kill off Laurie Strode in the freaking? I hate it. I hate Resurrection so much.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, it's not great. We're gonna have to do it eventually because this podcast is so overwhelmingly popular.
Yeah.
But
The fans are not going to let us get around it, because it's getting crazy already. The thousands.
It's probably going to be several months, maybe a year or two before we get to it.
Yeah,
but it's going to have to happen eventually.
Eventually, you're right.
I'm not going to like it, but whatever.
I love when Jimmy goes in there and there's just like it's just like the room is just so full of blood. It's like it was like something burst in there. It's like up to his ankles in blood, and he just like slips and falls. And here in a minute, that concussion is going to come into play, and it's going to be one of the most frustrating things ever. But it's so powerful because it's so quiet out in this. Like this is really good. Where Jimmy comes out, he gets in the same exact car that she's in. That you're going to see here in a minute. Okay, realizing that Michael is after Laurie, and being told that she was brought to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, Loomis forces that marshal at gunpoint to drive back to Haddonfield. Good for him. Jill finally finds Laurie, only to be killed by Michael, who then pursues Laurie through the hospital. She manages to escape to the parking lot, and she's hiding in a car. Jimmy regains consciousness and soon arrives and tries to start and drive the car to safety, but passes out again due to the concussion sustained from the slip and fall, causing the horn to blare, attracting Michael's attention.
And Michael pursuing Laurie, right? That's like a big part of this portion is he finds her finally, and he's chasing her, and she's running as fast as she can. And she's a little drugged up, but she's still running. But it's proof that walking in a horror movie is faster than running. Because he's literally just like slow as could be, and she's booking it.
He seems like
always finds her.
He seems a little stiff in this movie. Michael seems a little bit stiff, and again, like it's so like I can go back to 1978 and just watch that film over and over. That first Halloween, he was just like it was perfection, right? It was just so good. Every movement that Michael had, and it was just I hate to keep comparing it to that. It just Michael did seem a little bit stiff. He walks through some glass here in a minute. And he seems like he's the freaking I don't know, like a robot, like a Terminator or something. You know what I mean? Like just like RoboCop busting through the glass, but I don't know. That again, like I was talking about with that scene with Jimmy, he comes to the car, like you see her, she's down in the floorboard, which is great, and her little hospital gown.
Yes, okay,
you're like, oh yeah, he's never gonna find you in this freaking parking lot. Jimmy, she just happens to be in Jimmy's car, unfortunately, is what it looks like. And Jimmy passes out, and his head lands on the steering wheel, and the horn's going off, and it's like your worst nightmare ever, and you're feeling like your heart's starting to beat, your blood pressure's going up. It is one of the most powerful things in a horror movie. Yes, I've seen it often used in other horror films when you're sitting there and you're trying to be quiet and alarms are going off or something, like your phone goes off or somebody sneezes or there's something, like it. This is one of the best uses of that. And I've always remembered that on top of obviously the hot tub scene.
Yeah, and even here in a minute too, you'll talk about it, but it's really stressful once she gets out of that, and she sees Dr. Loomis, she sees her help, she sees her white knight, and she's like crawling for him and trying to shout help,
and she can't do it
because she's so dry. She hasn't talked this entire movie except whispering to Jimmy.
Yeah.
But then, she's as soon as the door shuts, she's like, "Help me!"
Yeah.
And then you see that in Scream.
They use it
20 or 16 years later, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's so good. And again, when you see here in a minute, Laurie Strode and Donald and Dr. Loomis reunite. for the first time that you've seen them reunite since that night before where like he did save her, and it's like
he just ran off.
Oh, and you love it so much because these are your two characters. They belong together,
heroes, yeah.
and you feel like they together can defeat Michael. For some reason, you believe it in your mind. I don't know why. This, you know what I mean? Because she's the final girl, and he's the doctor, and they're going to do it. Loomis, Marion, and the marshal, they reach the hospital just in time to save Laurie. Loomis shoots Michael. Michael comes through the freaking glass door like he's freaking like
Terminator.
He's a tank, and Loomis shoots Michael until he falls down. He shoots him 5 times. I shot him 5 times, seemingly
5 more times.
dead.
It's a total of 11 times.
I shot him 5 times. That's 11. Count it, 11. Marion calls the police on the marshal's radio. The marshal tries to check Michael's pulse. What?
Yeah. I like Michael's, or I like the Marshalls. They were so much dumber in the 80s, right? He's like, hey, only I can use that radio for help.
Yes.
And he's like, he just bends over and he's checking Michael. It's like, dude, have you not seen the first movie?
Yes. But that's what you want. Like if you're a horror movie fan, you want dumb people like this. Like we make fun of it.
You gotta have that cannon fodder.
That's what I'm saying. When the crowd is yelling at the screen, I've seen this 100 times, and I've seen it 6 times. But I've seen it so many times. But when he bends down to check the pulse of Michael, I'm yelling at my TV still to this day. I'm like, stop, get away! It's so good. And then Michael just turns dude over and just slices his freaking throat, and I just love it.
And the guy's like.
But in the same vein, you're like, he deserved it for being so stupid.
Yeah. And see, for me, I'm like, kill him, Michael. Why is he that close to you? What are you doing? What are you thinking, bud?
So Loomis and Laurie run into an operating room where he gives her the marshal's gun. I think that's smart, very smart on his part to hand Laurie the gun, right?
Yeah, of course.
Before being stabbed by Michael. Obviously, Michael, he breaks in. You see him like stick his hand through that glass door on this hospital. This hospital door. He sticks his hand through the glass. He comes in. He actually stabs Loomis with a scalpel, and then you see Laurie, like he's coming towards Laurie. Laurie shoots him. She's an excellent shot, by the way, and then she shoots him right in both eyes, which is probably the smartest thing that anybody has ever done in this franchise, blinding him. Yeah. And then he starts swinging the scalpel around the space violently. The two fill the room with flammable gas. Yeah, he's just like,
yeah. and it's a great shot too, with like the blood and stuff coming down the eyes. That's one of the better.
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Myers shots. Man. It's really cool to see his like just blood coming out of the eyes. It makes him look so much creepier, and he's still going. Like it doesn't stop him, it doesn't slow him down. He's still pursuing.
Very iconic shot there with the blood just running down. It's one of my favorite shots of Michael. And Loomis, he turns on the gas right before. And then so Michael starts swiping that way, and then Laurie does the same thing. Then Loomis orders Laurie to get out before igniting the gas, immolating, just like bringing himself and Michael up in this explosion. Laurie watches as Michael is engulfed in flames, emerges from the fire before finally collapsing. And you're seeing the mask burn. You're seeing Michael literally turn into ashes here. You literally see where John Carpenter was like, Michael's done now. Y'all leave me alone. Like he's got both eyeballs shot out. He is burning to a crisp. There's ashes. He's gone. It's over. The next morning, obviously, Laurie's transferred to another hospital, traumatized, but still alive.
Yeah. And like, at this point, you just don't want to be in a hospital anymore. Like, just I want to stay at the police station. Just like get me around a bunch of guards or something. Like,
why was she at? She was just at the hospital. Was she fell down the stairs? Is that why she was at the hospital?
Well, he stabbed her in the shoulder.
Oh, okay.
She had some blood in the shoulder. Dr. Alves was looking up earlier.
But where's Laurie's family in all this? They said they couldn't get a hold of her. Is that what they said? They couldn't get a hold of
the
her.
mom and dad are just gone. But hey, luckily Loomis, right? He kept that lighter from Jeff Daniels earlier. Because if you see, like, he kind of gave him the cigarette and he like put it in his pocket. He gave him the lighter. He just pocketed that. So he
You're
had
right.
that yellow lighter from
Yeah.
earlier, and he used that to ignite. And you can see in Halloween 4 and on, like Dr. Loomis's face is like burned on the one
Yeah.
side. Yeah,
Which-
you can see that
Which,
yeah,
by
that
the
burn
way, he
effect
should have
there.
never lived through that, and it was never. It never should have.
Come on, how you gonna have how you gonna have Halloween 4 and
Yeah.
beyond?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I watched Halloween 4 the other night. It's so good. I'm a Michael Myers fan, so I love the sequels and I love this series. And even though I say like it should have ended here, I mean, again, like 4 is a sleeper pick for me. It's one of the. I watched it the other night. It's a really good Halloween movie. So without them bringing it back, and again. How can I speak to that in that type of way? But as far as like just reviewing a movie, the 1978 film with its companion sequel right here, this is about as good as it gets. And anything else is just fan service. And I'm here for the fan service because I love Michael Myers and I love Halloween. So that's why I watch those films. But hey, it's sequel September, by the way. We got lots of sequels that we're going to review. Tell them about it, Chris. What we got?
Man, all right, so we got Terrifier 2 coming up, right? Which you guys will start seeing snippets of Terrifier 2, little clips of me and Tony. We did a live reaction of Terrifier 2, and we're going to release a full podcast on that as well. We also have a podcast of Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and Evil Dead 2 coming out for sequel September, and we are going to try to get those weekly releases back. We've been kind of out of pocket for the summer, taking some breaks with the family and stuff, but we're going to come back and we're going to start doing some weekly uploads again for you guys.
Terrifier 2, man. We watched that before this one. It made this film look tame. The gore and the craziness that is in that.
Yeah.
But we also had a good time. We laughed. And if you're one of our friends on Instagram, you've already seen one of those snippets that we added today. So, or the other day rather. And so, again, subscribe, look out for all those sequels in sequel September. We're leading right up into Halloween. We got lots of good shows coming. Yeah.
Yeah, we got like The Exorcist coming up. We're going to do like 13 Ghosts in October. We got a lot of fun stuff for October. There may be more than one 13 out of 13 coming up as far as our ratings go. So stay tuned, everybody.
This 1978 Halloween was our first 13 that we both agreed on. We both gave it a 13. So that's kind of iconic that we're doing that sequel here. And we both gave this one 11, which is hilarious. So we both gave the 78 a 13. We both gave this one 11. That's awesome. Thanks for joining, guys. Subscribe. It helps us. It helps this channel so much. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.